Hoister Up crew, this is a special video, not my normal content, but I'm a mechanic by trade, and so when something happens to my vehicle, I fix it. Driving down the highway, and I lose a cylinder, spark plug blows out. I was able to thread it in, get it home, put new spark plugs in, went to torque it, stripped out. Looked at a couple different options, and today I'm going to be using this Lisle kit. This is Lisle 65200. It supersedes the Lisle 65000. It is a deep hole loom head M14 by 1.25 spark plug hole repair kit. I think this was a problem kicked down the road for someone else to deal with, aka me. This is what most of the spark plugs look like coming out of the engine. Silver. A little worn out. Not bad. Here's the one that blew out. You see how dark it is, how much blow by I was probably having. And then when it blew out, there was not a lot of aluminum shavings here. Hardly any at all. I was surprised. And even when it stripped out, when I went to torque it, hardly any aluminum. Threads were already compromised. So when I went to torque it, it stripped out. So let's quickly go over what comes in the kit. We'll start with the most important part, is our dual step tap. Goes from 14 to the 18. Now as you thread this in, it's going to cut new threads into the aluminum and start to drive the rest of the tap in. The tap has this step right here, and this is actually a cutting surface. And as it gets drawn in, it starts cutting the hole wider to start to accept the tap here. It's going to take a lot of force to drive this in. Now to drive this piece, it gives you two options. A short driver, hex on one side for the tap, your 3/8 ratchet, and your long extension. Hex is down in there. There's a set screw over here so you don't lose it, and your 3/8 drive. Once you get it tapped out, you're going to use your driving tool for your new threads. Now make sure the knurled part you can see at the top here. The knurl end gets threaded on towards the installer. 3/8 ratchet head. Now you drive it in all the way till it stops. There's a little lip here. Keep it from going in too far. Now when you drive this in, you want to make sure you put some high temp Loctite in there. You don't want that backing off. To lock it in, to be more secure, you're going to use a Swage Tool provided in the kit. And what that does is when you drive it in with a hammer, it tries to open up the insert. And if you look at the end, the knurled part, look at the inside, there's no threads there. You want that to expand out to lock into the sides of the aluminum. So you can see this tool is pretty short. This last piece we're going over is an extension. To thread into the back of your Swage tool. That's the whole kit. Now we just got to use it to fix the threads. Now before we start the repair, we want a nice clean area. I'm very fortunate that the spark plug that did blow out is right in front, easy to get to. And we want to make sure that the piston is on the compression stroke so the valves are closed and the piston's about halfway down. We need room for the tap to extend into the cylinder. We also want the valves closed so when we blow it out, that metal does not enter into the intake system, and we don't want it all the way down because we want less room to clean. The instructions say to actually have the piston all the way up. I don't like that. We don't want to strike the piston with the tap. There's a couple ways to find if we're on the compression stroke and the valves are closed. You could put your finger there and have someone rotate the engine by hand, and if you feel pressure build up, you're on the compression stroke. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put air down into the cylinder, a small amount of air. If I hear it coming out of the intake here, I'll know that the valves are open, or if I hear it out the exhaust and it doesn't build pressure. If it builds pressure and wants to blow out, then I know that the valves are closed. It'd be very fortunate if I stop the engine in the exact right position. I know the piston is not all the way up. So I get this rubber bushing. Fits in there pretty tight. And it's building up pressure. I know those valves are closed. And I got a couple different bore scopes. And I know that we're not all the way up. So we are good to start the process. So first step is to get our tap and place it in our long holder. And we're going to use the Allen so it doesn't come off. So when you do get your Allen keys, 1/8 inch. Now, the instructions do say to remove this head from the vehicle. Obviously, we're not going to do that. And most people that buy this kit are not going to do that. So we need to catch the shavings that are being cut. So what we're going to do is coat this tap with grease. And every so often, we'll back it up, clean off the grease, and apply more grease. Tap. We're going to get a good amount on there. Now I still have a little bit of threads left, so I should be able to start this and know that I'm catching threads. They weren't totally wiped out. I was able to thread out the strip spark plug. We put our tap down in the hole. I'm going to backwards thread a little bit till I hear a little bit of a pop. Center the tube, and then start threading down the hole. At this portion, I didn't cut any of this out. I just sped it up. I wanted you to see how much effort it takes and how much ratcheting it takes to drive this tap all the way through. So I know it's drawn out a little bit, but I didn't want to cut this out. This is a very important part. Whew. It takes a good amount of force, but you can feel it cutting as you're turning the ratchet. You'll want to support the ratchet head and not twist it too much to make sure you're cutting those threads straight. See where we're at. Kind of felt it stop. About that far. Now that metal. So we're just going to take our bore scope, make sure we don't have to go in any further. Some shavings in there, so we're going to first vacuum out what we can and then run our bore scope down into it. Got our vacuum attachment, then hose. We'll run this down the cylinder. And we cleaned out the cylinder with the vacuum. Ran our bore scope down, as you can see here. We have a little bit more to go. We have our tap fully cleaned. And we'll put more grease on it and finish the last little bit. Make sure our tap thread's in. Grab our ratchet and we'll drive it down the rest of the way. Seems that we're about through. Give it a few turns into the cylinder. Definitely through. All those shavings. Oh yeah, big hole all the way through. Now, let's get the vacuum, suck it out, blow it out, run our bore scope down, and check out those new 18mm threads. So what I found is a good method to clean out the cylinder of all the metal shavings is a blowgun. And I have fitted that with a very soft nylon tube. I believe that weed eater fuel supply line. It's very flexible. So once I put it into the cylinder, because it's able to move freely, once I pass a lot of air through it, it spins around and it shot up so much metal the first time. Let's run our bore scope back in. You can see we're all the way through now. So we got some more shavings to get out of there. We'll have to do a lot of cleaning. Don't skimp on the cleaning aspect. It's better to take more time cleaning and not have a problem later. Now we got a smaller bore scope. Make sure we go through it again a couple more times. A few little specks here and there, we'll blow it out. So we'll resume the video once we get it cleaned out. We'll run our bore scope in and out several times to make sure we have every piece of metal out of the cylinder. And then we can presume with installing our threaded insert. Now that we got the hole cleaned out, we need to find the right insert to match. There's our new spark plug and our threaded insert. Looks pretty good to me. So we take our new threads, thread it onto our insert installer with the knurled sides facing out away from the cylinder. Fully seat it. Now we're going to apply some Loctite to the middle. And we're just going to take some brake clean and wipe the outside of this. Make sure there's no grease. You see there's some grease on there just from packaging. We want our Loctite to seat. Threads are cleaned out. We're going to use our Loctite, high temperature. So now we're going to use our tool. Need a long extension. Remove any over excess. I removed a little bit on the middle of the threads. And just give it a little snug. Okay. Doesn't say anything about torquing it up at this point. We'll let the Loctite do its work, and we'll come back later and thread the installer out after the Loctite is dried. Cover that, make sure nothing gets in there. And I think we're done for now. What I do is thread out the insert and then use our Swage locking tool, a couple taps with a hammer, and torque our spark plug in. It's been about 30-40 minutes. I'll take our insert out. Here's our Swage tool and our extension. Now I'll drop this in here, make sure we're straight in the hole and it engages. Put it center in the bore. The ring that it's set on there. Here's our insert. See, it looks like it popped the edge out. And that's installed. Our new threads. Job done. So I'm going to wait till tomorrow before I thread in the spark plug to make sure we get a full cure on the Loctite. I'm going to stuff this rag in and we'll come back tomorrow and torque it up. It's been a couple days getting back to finishing this car up. We are going to give it a test thread in. They do recommend running a tap through. If it doesn't seem to want to thread in really nice or seat by hand, then I'll go ahead and run a tap through it. That's threading really nice. If I could seat it by hand, it won't need a tap. We're going to torque it to the specified 11 foot-pounds. Got our torque wrench set. Tap. There we go. Torqued. When this spark plug blew, it broke the coil. Motorcraft coil, DG513. I just gotta find my dielectric grease. If you're wondering, 8mm. By the time I get this video out, I'll probably comment of how many miles I put on the car with the repaired spark plug. Imagine to be a couple weeks with all the boat work going on. and let you know if it's been a success for those couple weeks or if it failed. So got the car back together. We are going to give it a test fire. She was running rough there for a little bit, swooped out. It got me worried. Probably since it hasn't ran in 2 or 3 weeks. I had disconnected a lot of hoses and it's running pretty smooth now. Don't really feel it missing. Thanks for tuning in, crew. Hope this solves your problem if you have a spark plug blowout. The kit was easier to use than I thought. Threaded in pretty well, even though I had to cut that 14 to 18 millimeter bore. Worked very well. So, time will tell if my repair is a success. But so far, it looks great. So I've been driving the vehicle while editing the video. I have around 1,000 miles, no issues. See you next time, crew.